History remembers Cleopatra as the seductive, powerful queen of the Nile who charmed Rome's greatest generals. But history is written by the victors, and Cleopatra was an expert at erasing her enemies even when they shared her blood. While the world watched the romance between the Egyptian queen and Mark Antony, a dark, brutal family tragedy was unfolding in the shadows. There was another girl, a younger sister, who possessed the same fire, the same royal blood, and arguably, a better claim to the throne. Her name was Arsinoe IV. She didn't just fade away, she was hunted down, humiliated in the streets of Rome, and forced to live a life of psychological torture before meeting a gruesome end that violated the most sacred laws of the ancient world. This isn't the story of the Cleopatra you know. This is the story of the sister she murdered to keep her crown. To understand why a sister would kill a sister, you have to look at the family tree they climbed out of. The Ptolemaic dynasty wasn't just a royal family, it was a viper's nest. For nearly 300 years, they ruled Egypt like Greek pharaohs, but their internal politics were defined by incest, matricide, and fratricide. Murder wasn't an exception in this family, it was a succession plan. Cleopatra VII and Arsinoe IV were daughters of Ptolemy XII, a weak king who relied on Roman bribes to stay in power. Growing up in the palace of Alexandria, both girls learned the same lesson: trust no one. When their father died, he left the throne to Cleopatra and their younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. But Arsinoe, the middle child, was left in a dangerous limbo, royal enough to be a threat, but without a crown to protect her. She watched as Cleopatra was initially exiled, only to return with the most powerful man in the world, Julius Caesar, at her side. Arsinoe realized quickly that in this Game of Thrones, you either win, or you die. While history paints Cleopatra as the hero of the Egyptian story, at the time, she was actually seen by many locals as a traitor, a puppet of Rome sleeping with the enemy. The people of Alexandria hated the Roman occupation, and they needed a figurehead to rally behind. They didn't choose Cleopatra, they chose Arsinoe. In 48 BC, chaos erupted in Alexandria. Julius Caesar and Cleopatra were besieged in the royal palace by angry Egyptian forces. In a moment of incredible bravery, or desperation, the teenage Arsinoe escaped the palace right under Caesar's nose. She fled to the Egyptian army camp, where she was instantly proclaimed queen. This wasn't just a temper tantrum, this was a coup. At roughly 15 or 16 years old, Arsinoe wasn't hiding, she was leading an army against the legendary Julius Caesar. She executed the Egyptian general Achilles when he defied her, proving she had the ruthless streak necessary to rule. For a brief, shining moment, it looked like Arsinoe might actually win. Under her nominal command, the Egyptian forces squeezed Caesar and Cleopatra, cutting off their water supply and trapping them in a small quarter of the city. This is a part of history often glossed over. Caesar, the greatest tactician of his age, was nearly defeated by a teenage girl. The fighting was brutal. The famous library of Alexandria was damaged by fire, and the harbor turned red with blood. Caesar was forced to swim for his life during one engagement, abandoning his purple cloak to stay afloat. Arsinoe stood on the precipice of total victory. If she had succeeded, Cleopatra would have been executed, Caesar likely killed, and the history of the Western world would have been completely rewritten. But the tide of war is fickle. Roman reinforcements eventually arrived, and the raw power of the Roman legions crushed Arsinoe's resistance. The rebellion failed, and the young queen was taken captive. In ancient Rome, defeated enemies weren't just killed, they were turned into entertainment. In 46 BC, Julius Caesar celebrated his quadruple triumph, a massive parade through Rome showcasing his victories. The centerpiece of the Egyptian triumph was Arsinoe IV. Imagine the humiliation. A princess of Egypt, forced to walk through the jeering crowds of Rome, weighed down by heavy chains. But these weren't iron shackles, they were made of solid gold. It was a cruel display of wealth and dominance. Typically, at the end of a triumph, the enemy leader was ritually strangled in the Tullianum prison. This was the fate of the Gallic hero Vercingetorix. Arsinoe expected to die that day. However, something unexpected happened. The Roman mob, usually bloodthirsty, looked at this young girl in her golden chains and felt pity. She wasn't a barbarian warrior, she was a weeping teenager. The crowd's sympathy forced Caesar's hand. He couldn't kill her without looking like a monster, so he granted her a mercy that was arguably worse than death. Caesar banished Arsinoe to the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, modern-day Turkey. In the ancient world, a temple was a sanctuary. Once you stepped onto the holy ground, no one, not even a king, could touch you without angering the gods. It was supposed to be a safe haven. But for Arsinoe, it was a gilded cage. For years, she lived in the temple, surrounded by luxury but paralyzed by terror. She knew her sister. She knew that as long as she breathed, Cleopatra would never feel secure on the throne. Arsinoe spent every day looking over her shoulder, waiting for the assassin's blade. She was a queen in exile, stripped of her power, watching from a distance as her sister seduced Mark Antony and consolidated absolute power. The psychological toll of this existence, knowing your own blood is hunting you, is impossible to quantify. She was alive, but she was a ghost. The end came in 41 BC. Julius Caesar was dead, assassinated in the Senate, and Mark Antony was now one of the most powerful men in Rome. He needed Egypt's wealth to fund his wars. Cleopatra needed Arsinoe dead to secure her crown. They made a devil's bargain. Cleopatra sailed to Tarsus to meet Antony in that famous, luxurious display of gold and purple sails. She seduced him, yes, but she also gave him a hit list. At the very top was her sister. Antony, eager to please his new lover and financier, sent orders to Ephesus. The sanctity of the temple, a law respected for centuries, meant nothing to them. This was a political hit, pure and simple. The execution of Arsinoe IV was a sacrilege that shocked the ancient world. Mark Antony's soldiers didn't care about the goddess Artemis. They stormed the temple grounds. According to historical accounts, they dragged Arsinoe out or perhaps killed her right on the steps of the altar. She was roughly 20 years old. She had spent her entire short adult life running, fighting, or hiding from her sister. Her death was violent and messy. It sent a clear message to Rome and Egypt: Cleopatra respects no laws, not even the laws of the gods. The high priest of Artemis was spared only because an embassy from Ephesus begged Cleopatra for mercy later, but the deed was done. The rival was gone. Cleopatra was now the undisputed queen, having successfully erased her siblings from the board. For 2,000 years, Arsinoe's story was just text in dusty history books. But in the 20th century, archaeologists in Ephesus found something fascinating. In 1926, they opened an octagonal tomb, a unique shape reminiscent of the lighthouse of Alexandria. Inside, they found the skeleton of a young person. For decades, this was the smoking gun. The location fit. The timing fit. The age estimated to be a young woman fit. In the 1990s and 2000s, forensic teams reconstructed the skull and declared that this was almost certainly Arsinoe IV. It was a massive sensation. We thought we had finally looked into the face of the lost Ptolemaic queen. Documentaries were made, books were written, and the skeleton became a celebrity. It seemed like Arsinoe had finally been found. However, science is always evolving. In a stunning twist that emerged around 2025 and 2026, modern technology shattered the myth. A new, rigorous analysis of the octagon skeleton using advanced DNA sequencing and carbon dating revealed a shocking truth. The skeleton did not belong to a woman at all. It was the body of a boy, roughly 11 to 14 years old. The boy suffered from severe developmental disorders and was likely of European ancestry, not the Greek-Egyptian mix of the Ptolemies. This revelation completely debunked the theory that we had found Arsinoe. The young queen's body is still missing, lost somewhere beneath the ruins of Ephesus, likely destroyed or moved centuries ago. The mystery of her final resting place remains unsolved, adding yet another layer of tragedy to her erasure. Arsinoe IV is more than just a footnote in Cleopatra's biography. She represents the what-if of history. She was the only one who successfully rallied the Egyptian people against Roman occupation. She was a warrior queen who stood toe-to-toe with Caesar. Cleopatra tried to erase her. She removed her from the world, humiliated her in Rome, and violated the sanctity of a temple to kill her. But in doing so, she unwittingly immortalized her. We don't remember Arsinoe because she won, we remember her because her fate reveals the true, brutal cost of Cleopatra's ambition. It reminds us that behind the glamour of the ancient world's most famous romance lay the cold, dead body of a sister who just wanted to survive. And that is the tragic, often overlooked tale of the other queen of Egypt. It makes you wonder, if Arsinoe had won the siege of Alexandria, would we be talking about her legendary romance with a Roman general today instead of Cleopatra's? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darker side of history, please hit that like button, it really helps the channel. Let me know in the comments, do you think Arsinoe would have been a better ruler than Cleopatra, or was she doomed from the start? Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.